The morning after forever, my apartment smelled like citrus and promises. Sunlight pushed through the gauzy curtains, laying soft gold across the couch where we had fallen asleep around 2 a.m., drunk on leftover wedding cake and the kind of future you only talk about at kitchen tables. Babies and mortgages, orange trees in the backyard, a dog that would scratch at the door to be let into our perfect, ordinary life. His jacket was still tossed over a chair. Our playlist, ours, had stopped on the last note of Harvest Moon, as if even music knew it shouldn't intrude on something sacred. I made coffee. I sliced the final wedge of the lemon cake that my neighbor Mia had dropped off, a consolation prize for not getting reservations at the restaurant he wanted. I set 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 mugs. I kept the butter in the sun so it would soften for toast because he always said butter only becomes itself when it's warm. The minute hand walked toward 9, 10, 11. I moved the butter to the fridge. By noon, the coffee had gone cold twice. Once because I forgot it on the counter while I stood in the doorway of the bedroom, and again because I reheated it and then lost 30 minutes rereading the text he'd sent me at 1:17 a.m. Can't believe it's real we're going to make it, else. I know it. Forever, okay? Forever. I typed a reply that I never sent. I'm making toast. Come home. By 1, the silence had a shape. At 2, my phone finally rang. I almost dropped it. It was an unknown number. I answered with a voice that tried to pretend it hadn't been marinating in worry. Eleanor Walters? A calm professional woman asked. This is the admissions office at Ridgeview Elementary. You interviewed last week for the reading specialist position. We'd love to... I agreed to a second interview and wrote it on a sticky note that I stuck to the microwave. Because that's where I put important things, and because the microwave was the only object in my kitchen that sounded like a heart when it worked. Then I called him. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing, a text. Hey, everything okay? No reply. An hour later, I called his best friend Marcus, who answered with a laugh that turned into a question. I could hear the sound of a basketball echoing in whatever gym he was in. Where's Noah? I asked. Not with you? He said, jokes evacuated by my tone. No. Did you have a fight? No, I said, and felt it like a bruise because we hadn't. Not a real one. Only the kind of disagreement that has a smile on it. My practical worries about the deposit on the new place. His confidence that money figures itself out when people are as in love as they are on TV. He left around midnight. Said he needed to pick up something from his apartment. He texted an hour later, and then nothing. Maybe his phone died. Maybe, I said, and the word tasted like tin. By nightfall, the lemon cake was gone, and so was forever. There should be a word for what you do when someone leaves you without leaving the city. A word for when the toothbrush remains, the jacket stays draped, the playlist still holds his fingerprints, and yet the person himself has slipped sideways into a shadowy negative of your life. Here's what I did. I made a list. Things Noah left behind. Navy jacket with the frayed cuff toothbrush. Green. soft bristles, a jar of coins for our first trip to Portland. The sketch he made of me sitting in the diner, chin in hand, sunlight on my cheek. His promise, I added a sixth. The way my name sounded when he said it. It felt dramatic. I kept it. I went to his apartment, 2 blocks away, 2nd floor, plants on the sill because he believed they made the building feel less alone in winter. His door was locked. No lights. No note. His neighbor, an old woman who collected wind chimes and opinions, cracked her door when she heard my footsteps. "He's not there," she said, as if it were something obvious like weather. "Since when?" I asked. "This morning I saw a man knock. He left a card under the door when no one answered." She shuffled down the hall and picked up the card from where it had slid under the door and into the communal walkway. It fell out. Strange, right? She handed it to me. It was a business card. White. Clean. A name in serif. James Caro. Under it, Caro and Dean Architects. And then, in small, near-invisible letters, "We build what lasts." On the back, a number. I called it. A receptionist told me Mr. Caro was in a meeting. I left my name. She asked what it was regarding. I said, "A disappearing act," then apologized, then said, "It's about Noah Reed," and her voice shifted. "Hold, please." The hold music was too cheerful. It made me want to throw the phone. Instead, I sat in Noah's stairwell and counted the wind chimes behind the neighbor's door. I got to 7 before a different voice filled my ear. "Ms. Walters?" A man, older, careful. "This is James Caro. Where is he?" I asked without preamble. "I wish I could say," he said. And to his credit, he sounded like he meant it. "He missed a meeting this morning. It's not like him. Not like him to miss a meeting, or not like him to vanish." He paused. "Both. He cares about his work, and about keeping his word. It should have comforted me. It didn't. Everyone always thinks their missing person is unusually good. Maybe we're all right. If he contacts you," I said, "tell him to call me." "I will," Mr. Caro said. "And Ms. Walters, Noah spoke of you often, kindly." I went home and sat on the floor, cross-legged like a kid watching Saturday cartoons, and asked the quiet a question I hadn't yet let myself form. What if forever was a story we told so well we believed it? By midnight, a different question, uglier. What if there was someone else? We met in a bookstore, as if life had a sense of humor. I was shelving paperbacks at Harbor Books on a foggy Thursday when the doorbell trilled and a station of spring air walked in ahead of him. He wore a sweater with a hole at the elbow and had that distracted, tilted look people get when they're trying to be where they are and somewhere else at the same time. "Where do you keep the used poetry?" he asked, voice a little embarrassed, as if loving poetry were the kind of thing you whispered. "Past the new releases," I said. "Behind the philosophy section. You have to pass Kierkegaard to get to Neruda." "It was a choice," he laughed. "A moral test. That's what it says under the shelf plaque if you look closely." He looked. There was no plaque. "Liar," he said, delighted. He found a dog-eared copy of Mary Oliver and a first printing of a small press poet neither of us had heard of. I rang him up and we traded recommendations. He came back the next day and the next, until he made it unnecessary by asking me to coffee. He was an architect, still junior, with a sketchbook like a second pair of lungs. He drew buildings the way some people take pictures, often and without asking permission, as if to prove the world existed and he could be part of making it hold itself up. On our third date, at the riverside where the bridge leans into the sky, he told me he was raised on a farm in Ohio, that he loved the quiet of barns, that he had once fixed a fence and felt, for a full hour afterward, like the world and he were on the same team. "I want to spend my life making sturdy things," he said. "Houses that hold families. Libraries that don't leak into the children's section when it rains." "I can get behind that," I said, "as long as we design them with good light." He drew me on paper napkins, on old receipts, on the back of the brochure for the art museum. I took pictures of him when he wasn't looking. In all of them, he's leaning toward me as if our conversation were a campfire, and he couldn't resist its heat. We wrote our future in shorthand, a van trip up the Pacific coast, Sunday dinners with our found family, a kitchen that opened into a backyard, lemon trees, a dog with an old man name, Henry, Walter, Stan, forever? I asked once, with more lightness than the word deserved. He pressed his chin into my hair and said, "Forever." It's not even long enough. And now, this. On the second day of his absence, marveling at how quickly an ordinary life can dissolve, I did something I promised myself I wouldn't do. I opened the sketchbook he'd left in my living room. I had never touched it without his permission. I had goals and grammar rules, and the moral backbone of someone who returns a grocery cart to the corral in the rain. I also had fear like a stone in my throat. The sketchbook was a quilt of our city, corners of buildings, the old factory smokestacks, the way the bridge cast a shadow like a rib cage across the water, and again, the gentle geometry of my face, my stubborn chin, my uneven eyebrows, my neck with its small constellation of freckles. Between two drawings, a sheet of notebook paper, folded in half. I slid it out. It wasn't a letter. It was a list with a heading that stopped me. Things I don't say out loud. I'm scared of turning into my father. I don't know if I'm the kind of man who can stay. I want to be the kind who can, when I say forever, I mean it. But I don't know how to hold it. Eleanor believes in me, and it makes me both braver and more afraid. I sat back like the paper had burned me. There it was, the hidden door I'd been sensing in our house of words. He had opened it and stepped through. I slid the list back where I found it. I went for a walk. I passed the library he wanted to stop leaking. The air smelled like rain without any actual rain in it. I called my sister Ruth, who has 2 kids and a voice made of ropes and rescue boats. "Do you want me to come over?" she asked, after I said his name and not much else. No. Yes. I don't know. Okay. I'll decide for you. I'm bringing dinner. She showed up with lasagna, 2 kinds of bread, and an apology that one of the breads had burned. We ate on the couch. She let me talk in circles. She asked small, pointed questions like a seam ripper. Did anything happen that would make him bolt? No, I said. Then thought of him standing at the sink, hands wet, saying, "What if we wait on the house a year? Save a little more?" And me, too quick, too sure, saying, "The market will only go up and we can do it if we're smart." It hadn't felt like pressure then. It felt like faith. It still did. And yet Ruth's eyes softened. Else. People leave sometimes not because of anything we did or didn't do. Sometimes it's their own storm. I heard myself say, small. But I made tea. I know, she murmured, like an apology on behalf of the whole ridiculous world. You deserved soft. You even labeled the sugars. We fell asleep watching an old movie where the lovers end up in Paris. In the morning, she took the kids to school and promised to text every hour. I nodded, grateful for a promise someone could keep. At 10, Mr. Caro called back. "We found his car," he said. "In the lot behind the firm. Keys in the cup holder. Was anything taken?" "No, it's tidy, as always." The way all the details lined up, all the carefulness, made my breath go thin. "Keep me updated," I said, wanting to add, "Don't let him be a ghost." On the 3rd day, the city finally rained. I went to work at the bookstore because people still needed stories, even while mine was becoming a cautionary tale. I was shelving memoirs when Mia appeared, eyes bright with an idea. "Come out with us tonight," she said. "Me and some friends. There's a new bar on Pine, good fries. Bad lighting. I'm not bar-shaped right now." "Then let's be table-shaped," she said. "We can sit and pretend the music is wind." Another time, she squeezed my hand. "I'll keep asking." At lunch, I ate soup that tasted like not enough. On break, I watched the man who sat in the corner every Thursday copy lines from whatever he read into a small notebook. He once told me it helped him remember. I wrote down one of his lines on a receipt. "We survive by making meaning." When my shift ended, the rain had become a steady broom. I put up my hood and stepped into the blur. I passed a man handing out flyers for a yoga class and a woman singing into a phone like it was a microphone. I turned down the alley that cut the walk home in half. That's when I saw him. He was under the overhang behind the theater. Same jacket, same shoulders, hair darker from rain. He was writing in his notebook, head bent, unaware of me, which felt like a crime. "Noah," I said. He flinched. It was an animal motion, quick, pure. He looked up. His face did a strange, sad thing when it recognized me. I will think about that expression for the rest of my life. The truth lived in it, unadorned. "Else," he breathed. And for a moment the world became the sound of my name again. I wanted to throw my arms around him. I wanted to pound my fists against his chest. I settled for, "Come home." He closed the notebook. He held it like a fragile animal. "I can't or won't." He swallowed. Both. There was a brief, aching quiet. The rain made a steady applause on the dumpster lids. "You promised forever," I said, "because sometimes you have to say the on-the-nose line just to anchor yourself to the scene." "I know," he said, eyes shinier than the rain could explain. I meant it. Then why are we here? Why am I finding you behind a theater like we're in a bad indie movie? He laughed once without humor. Because the movie where the guy who grew up with holes in the screen door and a dad who left and came back and left again tries to be different, and then realizes there's a part of him he doesn't trust. That movie exists too. I'm not your father, I said, and the fury in me surprised us both. I know, he said quickly. That's the only reason I made it this far. Then keep going. He looked at the notebook. I've been writing it down. All the reasons I ran, all the ways I want to come back. I've walked past our place 3 times. I stood across the street like a creep and counted the curtains. I almost knocked. And then I thought, what if I can't be the man she thinks I am? What if I break the good thing? You already broke it, I said. This is what breaking looks like. He winced like I'd hit him. I'm sorry. I don't want your sorry, I said, and meant it. I want your stay. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was the kind of resolve that looks a little like surrender. I can't ask you to wait while I figure out how to not be a runaway. Then don't ask, I said. Decide. He held my jaw in his gaze. Then this is the truth. I love you, and I'm not ready. I thought I was. I wanted to be worthy of everything we said, but I need to fix the fence in myself first. You can fix it with me, I whispered. He shook his head, small, pained. If I do it while you're watching, I'll pick the parts that make you feel better and I'll call it growth. It won't be. The rain cooled my anger. It couldn't put it out. I heard my voice come from far away, steady in a way that made me feel older than I was. How long? I asked. He breathed. I don't know. A month. 6. A year. I laughed, harsh enough that the neighbors' wind chimes could have cut themselves on it. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have, he said, and I hated him for it, which is to say I loved him still. Give me the notebook, I said, surprising both of us again. What? Give me the pages where you wrote that you want to come back. He hesitated, then tore out a sheaf of lined paper and handed it to me like it was contraband. Now go, I said, because I couldn't stand another minute of the rain making him beautiful. He nodded, throat tight. I'm sorry, he said again, pointless as an umbrella in a hurricane. He turned and walked down the alley. He didn't look back. That, more than anything, told me forever had a seam you could pull if you knew where to pinch it. I held the papers to my chest and swore they were warm. Reef performs strange math. You wake up and the hours are coins you keep counting, surprised to find that you can still afford to breathe. I went to my second interview and, to my astonishment, spoke about phonemic awareness with calm authority. I told the principal that reading is a way of being held when no one can touch you. She said I had the job before we'd finished our coffees. I called Ruth from the school parking lot and told her, I think the universe is trying to bribe me. And she said, take it. Ask for a signing bonus. I moved his jacket from the chair to the closet. I did not throw away the toothbrush. I put the jar of coins on top of the refrigerator, because I am not a saint, but I am not a vandal either. I wrote in my own notebook, the one I use for lines I want to remember. I wrote, "We survive by making meaning." He didn't leave because I wasn't enough. He left because he wasn't. Even as I wrote it, a dissenting voice, my own, but sharpened, said, "But what if you were too much? What if your wanting was loud and he couldn't hear his own hope under it?" I shut the notebook. I washed my face. I went to bed early because nothing, not even sadness, can fight sleep forever. Days gathered. They formed a crude structure. I taught. I drank coffee in mugs that felt like ballast. I called my mother and let her tell me about the cat's new habit of sleeping on the microwave. I texted Marcus to ask if he'd heard from Noah. He hadn't. Then one afternoon he did. A short message that said, "Alive. Sorry. Tell Els I'll call when I can." I said, "When he can what? Swallow his own fear?" Marcus said, gentle. "When he can speak without making it worse." I bought lemons and learned how to bake a cake. I started jogging in the evenings badly. I slept through the night 3 times in a row and woke up suspicious. On a Saturday, Mia dragged me to the farmer's market where a band played love songs on instruments that looked handmade. A woman sold me a plant and told me it would be hard to kill. I named it Stan. The papers he had given me stayed folded in a drawer. I didn't read them for weeks. When I finally did, they were both everything and not enough. He had written, "I want to come back when I can hold the word forever without my hands shaking. I want to come back because she knows where to put the butter. I want to come back because I believe in building. And what is love if not a place to live?" Another page. My father left because he always wanted the road more than the porch. I keep thinking I'm different. And then I hear the road singing and I forget the way home. I put the papers back. I cleaned the kitchen. I stood by the window and watched a kid across the street learn how to ride a bike, and felt for the first time joy that did not have to run through him to reach me. 3 months after he stepped into his own weather, a letter arrived. Real paper, hand-addressed. My name in his particular handwriting that always looked like it was leaning toward something it loved. I put it on the counter and walked around it like it was a sleeping animal. I made tea. I wiped the table. I straightened the plant. I folded laundry. Then I opened the letter with the serious little knife I never get to use. "Els, I've been in Ohio. My dad got sick in a slow way that requires many forms. He is sorry about almost nothing, and I am sorry about almost everything. I'm helping with the farmhouse, the roof, the windows, the fence I told you about. It turns out fixing a fence still makes me feel like I'm on the world's team. I want to be on yours, but only when I can stand in that team like a man who can keep what he holds. I don't deserve an answer. I would like your life to be full, even if I never find my way back to it." That is not a noble sentence. It is the only one I can write without pretending. I saw a library here that doesn't leak. I thought you'd like that. I thought about your face when you find a line that fits between your ribs like it was grown for you. I thought about the lemon cake and how you saved the last piece for the morning. I thought about how you said the word forever, like it could be a small, daily thing, not a grand, impossible one. I am trying to learn how to say it that way too, and I read it twice. Then I put it under the magnet shaped like a teapot, next to the school calendar and the card for the dentist. I didn't cry. It wasn't that kind of letter. It wasn't an ending or a beginning. It was an accurate map of a place that might not exist when you got to it. That night, I dreamed of a house with a door that opened onto a field of tall grass. When the wind moved through it, the grass made a sound like someone shushing a child who is about to be told the truth. People ask, but only the brave ones, how I'm doing. I tell them the answer that satisfies and the one that doesn't. The satisfying one. I'm good. The job is great. The kids make jokes about vowels that would kill in the right rooms. The unsatisfying one. I am learning how to live inside a sentence that has a comma instead of a period. On a Tuesday in early spring, I stood in front of a room of second graders and read them a story about a girl who planted a seed and checked on it every day. You can't rush beans, the grandfather says in the book. They know the pace of the world better than we do. One of my students, a boy who never takes off his baseball cap, said, "So you just gotta chill?" And I said, "Yes, you have to chill." That evening, I made pasta and ate it at the table because sometimes you have to do the domestic ritual to remind your body where the prayers go. I lit a candle. I played the playlist we used to call ours and renamed it My Life Still. When Harvest Moon began, I let it play. I did not flinch when it ended. I hit repeat. The phone rang. A number I knew better than my own. I could have ignored it. I could have picked it up on the first ring. I did the only thing that felt like respect for the life I'd built since the alley. I let it ring twice, then answered. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I said. There it was again, the sound of my name in his hello, even without the syllables, the way a tone can hold you. "How's Ohio?" I asked, which was not what I wanted to ask, and exactly what I needed to ask. "Flat," he said, and laughed softly. "Full of sky. My dad is stubbornly alive. I'm glad. How are you?" "I won't insult us by saying I'm fine," I said. "I'm okay. I got the job," he exhaled. "You were always the person they needed. I'm happy for those kids." "Me too," I said, and meant it. We let silence do its work for a moment. Then he said, careful, humble, "I'm coming back next month. To the city. For good, I think. Not to you, unless you want that. To the work. To the life I left in a kind of panic I don't want to repeat." "You think?" I said, because precision had become my religion. "I know," he corrected himself quietly. "I know I'm coming back. I don't know what that means for us." "I don't either," I said. "I know that I have a plant named Stan and a pantry with more beans than one woman should own, and a playlist with your ghost all over it, and that I've become someone who can eat breakfast without waiting to see if anyone else is hungry." "I'm glad," he said, and I believed him. We talked about the library that didn't leak. We talked about how the bridge looks when it's foggy,